about combat ready art.
Yes.
Is it a safe place to be?
It's the safest place to be.
We see in front of us a bunch of knives. There's a sword. I even see a baseball bat behind us. There are skulls. I ask you to introduce us to your art.
So Combat Ready Art is a blacksmithing, forge, and metal art studio at Park Trade Center in downtown Kalamazoo. It was founded by my husband, John Reeves. I started here when my youngest started classes with John. And then when John and I started dating, I started helping with some of the business parts of it and then learning forging. Then I became a co-owner a few years ago, and classes just took off. Everybody wanted experiences. And so teaching the classes was the experience. And then they get to take something home too. And then last year my husband passed away, so now I'm the co-owner, and I like to think of it that he started it, we grew it together, and now it's my responsibility to continue it.
Combat Ready Art, more about the name.
So the origin of the name was somebody was hanging a piece of my husband's art and it dropped and it broke the floor and not the art. And the person said, well, that's combat ready. So my husband liked the name. But it also fit because you can have a knife and it's very practical, but it can also be really beautiful. Art doesn't have to just be pretty. It can also be practical and useful.
So I want to get into the classes, but are we literally making knives?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The railroad spike knife, that's the most popular choice. It's a great beginner knife. It has a lot of material. It's a little forgiving. Metal itself is very forgiving, so you can hit it as hard as you want. I kind of joke you can get all your anger issues out, but then you have to pull it back. And so you're channeling that negative energy that we all have, no matter how old you are. You know, we start classes at 9 years old. The oldest has been 87 years old. We all have that negative energy. So you're channeling that out, but then you're also creating something from it. So it becomes very therapeutic. Then we have the billet knife class where you can make like a kitchen knife or camp knife. We have Damascus. So we're using different layers of steel. And in the middle is called 15 and 20. It has a high nickel content, so it gets shiny. You have to let it soak in ferric chloride for about 20 minutes, and that only reacts to not the 15 and 20. It makes all the other steels darker. And so then that's how you get that contrast. This particular one had copper with it. And then, of course, the ultimate, which is kind of just everything. What you learned about shaping a blade in the railroad spike is exactly the same with the sword. You need the patience from the Damascus. You've learned a little bit from the short sword, and so then you can start on the full sword, because everybody eventually wants a sword. But we do traditional blacksmithing as well. The first project, technically everybody should do, even though they all want a knife,
To get their hands.
is a hook. The hook is the practical form. The snake is the artistic form. And so our snakes have little eyebrows, and you can make them as angry, or I make little anxiety snakes. So, but then we also have the steel flowers. The flowers don't have anything in the forge, but you're plasma cutting them out of the steel, which is very fun. And then you're cold shaping them with different hammers and welding it together. So you learn a different side of the studio. So first we're going to get the fire going a little bit more. This is just coal and air. It's bituminous coal, so it's made for blacksmithing. It's a much more traditional way to blacksmith as well. We're going to do a railroad spike knife today. So the railroad spikes are used railroad spikes. We buy them through an authorized dealer. So you see it's starting to get the color. We want it to become the color of the flame, so that bright yellow color. So that's a good color to start. So first we're just hammering down. You want to try to hammer from your shoulder and not your wrist, just to save energy. You don't have to go fast either. Nice, good, strong strokes are good. Flip it every once in a while. The anvil is doing the other side, so as you're hammering one side, the anvil is kind of smoothing out the other side. So we have it kind of that initial thinness, and now we want to start shaping it. You shape it by hitting it in certain points. So I want to make this a little wider, so I'm just going to work along the cutting edge side. Still hitting that down straight, but that starts to push that material out. We want to get that point in there and get it a little bit thinner. The fire can burn at about 2,800 degrees. And the only way to check what temperature it is to pull it out and check it, which doesn't hurt the steel at all. So we're going to drive that tip in a little bit more. If you bring it right up to the edge and hit it at an angle, you can really get a good tip in there. And then still flattening it down. So that's a nice shape. You can make it whatever you want. If I wanted it straight, I could just straighten that out. Thinness-wise, it's good. You want to have a little bit to play with on the grinder without grinding an entire spike away. So now we're getting the handle hot, keeping the blade out of the fire. I'm going to capture it blade down in the vise. Put the twisting wrench around. And walk clockwise one time. Got to ignore the stick. There we go. And then that's the twist. So personally, I like the curve in the handle. If I wanted to straighten it out, I would hit it with a baseball bat on the stump there. But that looks pretty good. So now we'll get the blade warm. I'll put it in the vise to make sure it's straight, and then we let it cool off. So now we have it shaped, rough shape. Now we need to clean it up. We're cleaning up what we want shiny, and also tweaking the profile. Every once in a while, just because friction, you put in the water. Grinders are very fun, very powerful. If you've never used a grinder before, the first 5 seconds are terrifying, then it'll be on your wish list. So now this is pretty clean, so I'll start the cutting edge. We angle it just a tiny bit, like 10 to 15 degrees. And that bevel starts, so all of that will be gone. Then we do want to clean up the head and grind that weld off. And I just want to bring a little bit of contrast to that handle, so we'll just grind those corners down a little bit. And so then that'll be some nice contrast on the handle too. All right, more of the same then.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, really cool.
As we're looking at your art, are all of these, is this your work? Is this your students' work? And I have to ask, what is your favorite?
Mm-hmm. So these are all my pieces. On the table right now, I have 3 favorites. So the snake, just hammering the knot in the steel, that was just fun to do. Very good hammer practice. The sword will always have kind of a special place in my heart. You know, it's the biggest piece I had. The Damascus, this particular one is a Kumai Damascus. That has been the subject of many spectacular failures. And so this was the first one that stuck together and cuts and everything. So that's always fun to do. My absolute favorite piece that we ever did in the forge is the piece for Binder Park Zoo, though. A 12-foot by 9-foot piece that's on the fence that leads up to the wolf exhibit.
No doubt this is art. Is this a niche? Where do you fit? You're very unique.
Well, and if you look throughout history, there have been weapons, and beautiful weapons, that are now in museums and still being replicated, of course, today and used today. You could think of these almost as sculpture, too. You're shaping how you want it to be. So you have your artistic vision, but there is a little compromise with the steel, too. It has a dream for its next life as well. But you learn how to shape that, much like you would with clay, really. And just like a bowl or a vase would be beautiful in art, the same is true for knives. Just because they're sharp and considered a weapon doesn't mean that they're not beautiful and pieces of art.